Welcome back to part 3 of our conversation with Adam Robinson, where he tells us about the founder's dilemma. Do you want to be rich or be king? Because you can't be both. He explains this and much more. Stay tuned because part 3 is coming up.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. I want to switch it up just a little bit because I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about you as an entrepreneur. You have built an amazing organization, and I'd like to understand some of the tools, techniques, and strategies that you used in order to build Hireology to the point where it is today.
I'd be happy to talk about it.
Awesome. So what's some of the best advice you've been given in business?
Some of the best advice I've been given, certainly is I would say related to this classic notion of the founder's dilemma, which is the choice you make as the founder of the business is whether you want to be rich and build an asset that's worth something, or if would you rather be king in control of everything. You can have the possibility for a lucrative outcome. Be rich, you can be king and be in charge of everything, but rarely can you be both. You can't really be both rich and king. In order to build a company that has asset value, you have to give away control eventually of everything. Everything that happens every day in the business has to be done by someone, not you. And the last company that I started and grew, I was not great at delegating and trusting and putting the right people and structure in place. And learning that lesson and applying those lessons to Hireology has made all the difference for me.
Yeah, difference between being a business owner and having the business own you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right, so that was some of the best advice. So tell us something that you got advice. You didn't know that it wasn't, quite frankly, good advice at the time. You implemented it and then only found out, oops, that was not good advice to take.
Let me answer it this way. I could tell you that, we have about 30 engineers, software engineers on our team, and 100% of them are remote. They're home-based across the United States. And I remember back to our early days, I had a potential investor tell me that model would never work. This is going back to 2011, 2010, would never work. They have only seen companies be successful where all of the engineers are in one location. And that if I didn't do that, I was destined for failure. And I sat there and I thought, well, here's what my intuition and experience tell me. I don't want to wait for the right person to become available at the right price in my market and, have to slow everything down based on the labor pool of Chicago, Illinois. I want to hire the right person I need at the right time for the right price, and I don't care if they're on the moon. I'll send them a laptop and pay for their internet connection. I want them focused on building great software, and we want to build the best possible team. And so I pushed forward with this remote work from home model based on what I knew engineers wanted, and it's been hugely successful for us. I think we're probably 30 to 40% more productive. We have higher code quality and lower turnover by hiring that way on our engineering team than we would if I demanded everyone show up to the office every day.
And how do you hold them accountable, and how do you manage those remote teams?
All kinds of tools today can help you manage remote teams, whether it's down the hallway or across the country. We use HipChat as a communication tool. It's very similar to Slack. We use conference calling technology like Zoom. The most important thing we do to hold people accountable is communicate expectations. So we expect a certain amount of output on a weekly basis from developers. We communicate that expectation and we manage to that. I don't care what hours you work. I don't care when you work, and I don't care where you work. You achieve that outcome, I'm good. You want to work from midnight to 8 a.m. From the surface of the moon, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Why would I care? I don't want to manage that stuff. I want to hire people that are mature enough and capable enough professionally to handle that responsibility, to just deliver on that outcome. And we can talk and teach about better ways to build products, but we don't want to be harping on people about work hours and location. And we don't want to be stuck without the right people when we need them.
You just want the outcome.
That's correct.
How do you execute and get everything done that you have to get done as the leader of the organization?
This will sound consistent with other answers I've given, but I have to determine what's most important, and then back into what I have time left over for. So we decide in our business what we want this business to look like 10 years from now, and understand that the business has to be achieving a certain level of performance in 3 years to be on track. And in order to be there in 3 years, there's some things we need to get done this year. And in order to get things done this year, we've got to get some things done this quarter. So what I'm doing this quarter is helping my organization achieve those priorities that are going to help us hit our year, that put us on that trajectory. And if it's not on that list, I am not going to do it. I don't care how interesting it is. I have to say no. And believe me, I am not predisposed to saying no to things that sound fun or interesting. I want to do everything, but I can't. I can do a small number of things very well. I cannot do a lot of things very well. And if I'm spread too thin, the organization is going to feel more hectic, more frantic. There'll be less clarity, less buy-in. Those are all bad things. Yeah. So I try to say no to more, right? I try to say no to more. And the habit I've gotten into, and I've done this for 10 plus years, is every day I come into the office, I sit down and I write my list of 5 things that I have to get done that day, starting with the most important thing first. And I don't go to the second thing until the first thing is done. And sometimes I only get one thing done, but I get the one most important thing done.
If I was your chairman right now, I'd give you a raise.
Ha! Well, I'd give you his phone number.
Real? No, look. I've been around business for the last 30 years. And this, if you're listening to this right now, go back and replay that. That is the secret sauce right there. Learning to say no, extremely focused on the outcome, and writing down what your top priorities are for the day and not going on to number 2 until number 1 is done. If you simply did that, I promise you so much would fall into place and business would get so much easier.
Well, at the end of the year, 250 really important things got done.
Yes.
And the only thing that matters is moving the business forward. If I can move forward every day on something that's critical, then that's effective.
Yeah. And what happens, human nature, right? Where we are and where we want to go, right? There's a gap there. And what most of us try to do, right, is to leap that gap in one fell swoop. Let me come up with a great idea that I only have to do one thing to make one move. The people that are ultra successful decide today, what can I do to move the needle 2%, 1%?
Well, we are the sum total of our daily habits. I believe that.
Yes.
And if you set out to change the world in a day, that's admirable. It's just probably not going to happen. But if I know what it takes to achieve a big target, and I know the time frame, and I have a vision for what that looks like, and I do the things every single day I know are going to lead to success, then I have a high likelihood of achieving that goal. I just have to be realistic and hold myself accountable. I mean, it's the issue you see with the health and wellness industry in the United States. I mean, there's billions of dollars spent on all of this advice and different diets and things like that. And at the end of the day, eat less and exercise more.
Really? Yeah, that sounds brilliant.
If I get up every day and I do my 30 minutes in the morning, and if I eat healthfully over time, my health will improve. It's not going to happen in a day. But if I do these things every single day, and that's something that I care about, then I'll have that outcome. I will be the sum total of my daily exercise, and eating habits. It's no different in business. If I want to have a high-performing business that's scalable and process-based and data-driven, every single day I need to be running my business that way. I need to be doing things that help us run that business that way. And if I'm not the person to build those things, and believe me, I am not that person, I need to be hiring someone that knows how to do that and then watching and managing them every single day to do it.
Yeah, it's those simple blocking and tackling. And one technique that I suggest to the listeners is keep those notes in a folder. After you've done those, after you've written out your top 5, you've marked them off, put them in a folder. Because here's what happens. We forget what happened last month, 2 months ago, a quarter ago. And it's amazing if you just spend a couple minutes looking at where you came from and where you are now. We have a tendency just to kind of disregard it, right? It's like, okay, I don't know if I really got a lot done. Keep track of them. Save those notes. You'll be amazed at how far you come.
Absolutely. And in my own habit is to grab a moleskin notebook or a black and red and write it down every day. At the end of the year, the notebook's full. I've saved them all, and I go back and I look. And I've actually caught things. I thought, God, that was a great idea. I never did that. I ought to bring that back up. That was really interesting. So that years of notebooks yield lots of wisdom.
Absolutely.
So you just gave some great advice.
Yeah, that's literally how this podcast started. I had books and books, notebooks of ideas and thoughts that I wanted to share with my kids. And I said, why am I just going to pass these notebooks along to my kids? I said, let me get these thoughts out into the air, into the ether, and where they'll be for everyone to enjoy and listen to, and hopefully they get something from it. So that's literally how it started. It really had nothing to do with the business at first. We're almost out of time here, but I want to ask one last question and find out how the audience can get a hold of you. If there was something that you had or wish that you had started earlier, you're doing it now, but you look back and say, you know what, I just wish I started that maybe a couple of years earlier. What would that have been?
I would have started delegating much sooner to somebody that was much better suited to looking at details and finishing projects. I would have looked for that help much sooner. It would have been worth it, and we'd be farther along.
Great advice. So tell the audience how they can get a hold of you.
You can find information on the book we discussed or things I speak or write about at www.thebestteamwins.com. More information on Hireology at www.hireology.com. That's HIREOLOGY.
Adam, thank you very much for being on with us today. We could have gone on for 2 or 3 hours, but you know how to say no to things, and this interview is done because you've got other things to do.
It's great being here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.